In this video I'll be going over the differences between the 6th Godzilla film, Great Monster War, and its American version titled Monster Zero, or Invasion of Astro Monster as we're now calling it. With that said, let's dive in. The intro credits of course are different, with the Toho logo absent in the American cut. Also, different music plays in both versions. The Japanese one has the classic military march score, giving it a very upbeat and energetic feeling. The American one uses music that plays later in the film, specifically when the flying saucers are capturing the kaiju, giving the US version a more ominous feel compared to the more upbeat Japanese one. I personally like the American one, but both are great in their own rights. After the credits we cut to space, where on-screen dialogue is written differently in both cuts. The Japanese one mentions a new planet discovered in the year 1960X, while the American one keeps the time vague and mentions that Planet X is beyond Jupiter. The scene where Fuji is looking for Glenn has him saying extra dialogue in the American version. It's just him saying Glenn more times, but it really makes him sound more nervous here than he is in the Japanese version. The scene where the aliens are speaking in an alien language is cut. This happens more later and I can understand why it's cut out of the dub, but I'll save that for the end. When the aliens discuss their help to beat King Ghidorah, a reward is offered as a miracle cure for all diseases in the dub. The Japanese specifically say it's a cure for cancer. Now, cancer is a very serious subject matter and it feels very out of place for a movie like this. Just bringing up the illness feels like a definite mood killer. The dub actually rectifies this and even manages to make it sound more grander, as it's a cure for all diseases. Another scene with the alien language is cut. A newspaper headline is also removed. In the past movies, the Americans would often make their own newspaper scene to replace the Japanese one, which even as a kid I always thought this was a little silly considering they're in Japan and they have newspapers translated in English. Anyway, the paper scene does feel unnecessary, as even without it we get the idea that the astronauts made it back safe. Subtitles of the monsters' locations are present only in the dub. A sign of the World Educational Corps is removed in the US version. Another newspaper headline revealing radioactivity at Lake Myojin is cut. A short bit of Glenn and Fuji talking is shortened down. When the flying saucers land, the sounds of people talking over each other is heard only in the Japanese version, which makes the dub feel odd to the fact that no one's saying a word to this amazement. When the leader of the Zillions are talking to the people of Earth, the sounds of the flying saucers are heard only in the Japanese version. I mean, you can kinda hear them in the dub, but it's very faint.
And we seek to establish cooperation and eternal friendship.
Some footage of soldiers is cut. A scene where the monsters are being carried away is cut in the dub, along with a shot of Earth. Another scene where the monsters are rearranged to happen as a short cutaway in the dub. Before landing on Planet X, a shot of Glenn, Fuji, and Dr. Sakurai is removed. Godzilla's victory dance has added sound effects to the American version. A third scene with the alien language again is cut. When Glenn and Fuji are escaping from the Zillions, a short scene of them talking to each other is cut. The fourth and final scene with the alien language being spoken is actually kept in the dub, though the language itself isn't heard, just the scene. The montage scene has different on-screen dialogue in both versions. When a flying saucer is spotted at Fuji's location, a woman screams in the dub, while a man does in the original. A short moment of Fuji swearing is cut. When Dr. Sakurai pulls a file out of a cabinet, a still shot of it is removed. Likely because Americans wouldn't have any idea what it says anyway. But you'd think with this movie putting subtitles in places, they could have easily done so here to translate for us. I don't know, maybe it was just too awkward at the time. In the scene where Glenn and Tetsuo find Namikawa's letter, not only does Tetsuo call her a bitch in the Japanese version, but the letter itself is also changed, making this the only original footage for the American version. Also, the message lingers on a bit longer in the dub. which includes a short cutaway in the middle of it. When the military fight back against the Zillions, the music is shifted around in the dub. If you play both versions side by side like I did, you can really tell the tracks are being played at different points. In fact, after the Zillion commander just kills off his troops, the music stops playing in the dub. Though when the last ship explodes, you can faintly hear the track continuing to play before it fades off. It's kind of an awkward edit. And finally, the end title cards, of course, are different. Overall, the dub of Monster Zero, like Mothra vs. Godzilla before it, is very close to the original in terms of dialogue and editing. When I do these comparisons side by side, I often tune the Japanese audio down a bit since I'm mainly just reading through it. While doing so for this film, I was really amazed at how dang close the dialogue was to one another. At times I thought I was reading dub titles like the Sony releases. It's not 100%, but it comes pretty darn close. Though there are some name changes here. Keiko Sawai's character Haruno is called Harune, and her boyfriend Tetsuo is called Tetsui or Terry sometimes. These could have been either mistranslations, or they were just easier to say for the dub crew. Speaking of the dub, it isn't bad, and it's nice to hear Nick Adams actually speaking his lines. For those wondering, when the movie was made, Nick was speaking his lines in English, while Akira Takarada and the rest of the crew spoke in Japanese. And supposedly this didn't give anyone a hard time working on the film. As a turnaround, Nick Adams is actually dubbed over in the Japanese version, voiced by actor Goro Naya, who does an okay job, but doesn't seem to commit the same emotion Adams actually gives his character half the time. Lastly, let's discuss the alien language. It's silly, and I could see why the American crew cut any bit of it out. You see, the Zalians are speaking a normal human language a majority of the film, and at random moments they switch to their own language. It goes unsubtitled as well. And the aliens aren't doing any sort of actions to give us any sort of idea on what they're going on about either. It's understandable when they talk to Earthlings in our native language, but why are they speaking that way to each other? It doesn't make any sense, and the fact that the dub cuts every moment with it just shows that it was unnecessary. When I made that vote on my Ghidorah differences video, some of you had wanted me to continue the series in a straightforward manner, meaning do all the Showa era movies in order. Here's the problem with that. There's just no need to. Up till now, all the movies I've done comparisons between are viewable with the original Japanese versions and their edited US counterparts. Keyword being just that. Movies like Ebirah and Son of Godzilla have edited dubs, but since the 2004 DVD releases, Sony has given us uncut dubs of certain films, meaning everything is all there and you're getting an English track to go with it. And as of now, these versions are readily available for you to view, whether you buy the DVDs or Blu-rays or watch them on streaming services. The only way you're watching the edited versions is if you watch them on VHS. And let's be real, how many of you are really doing that? The movies I've already done and a select few I haven't touched yet have their dubs edited and can only be viewed that way if you want to watch the English version. Hence why I do these videos, just to show you what you're missing when you view a certain version. I'm not saying I can't do them at some point, but as of now, I'd like to focus on the dubs that can only be viewed with changed or cut content. So next time to switch things up, I'll be looking at the differences with the 1956 classic Rodan. I'm hoping you'll all look forward to that. Please consider liking the video to help the channel out and subscribing to show your care for kaiju content. With that said, thank you all so much for watching, and take care.
From a planet 50 million miles beyond the stars came a strange message. Lend us your Rodan and Godzilla to fight our Monster Zero. The stage is set for the mightiest battle ever seen, with the most dreaded creatures in the universe. What started as a call for help from space turns into a nightmare of terror on Earth. Monster Zero.